For this week, you're going to be taking your annotations that you took last week, and you are going to be turning them into sentences and typing them into a new slides presentation to make your final informational presentation about the person that you researched. So to do that, I want to show you how you can have two documents open at the same time on your screen so that you can easily look at your annotations from last week and copy them or rewrite them into this week's writing packet. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to open last week's writing packet. So as you can see up here, this is mine from last week of May 18th. Yours looks very similar. The next thing that you need to do is open this week's writing packet, which looks like this. Notice how at the top of my screen I have two tabs. The first one's Mrs. Faith's template, and then the second one is this week's writing packet of May 26th. All right, once you have both of those open, what you're going to do is up here, if you move your mouse to the very top of the computer screen, you should see these three dots appear. I want you to click on the green one, and you're going to exit full screen. And you can see that it makes these two tabs a little bit smaller so that you can see the background of your desktop in the back. So mine is a picture of an ocean. You can see it popping out on the side. Now what you're going to do is you're going to put your mouse on a gray area up at the top of one of the tabs, and you're just going to slide it down so that you can see more of your desktop. Now you're going to take one of the tabs, so you could pick this tab or you could pick this tab, it doesn't matter, and holding down on your mouse, you're going to drag it over so it separates out from the other tab. Do you see now I have two windows? Okay, so now I have two different windows open, one for this week's writing and one for last week's. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to click on one of the windows, doesn't matter which one. Click on the green circle again, and it gives you three options. You can have a full screen, you can have this window to the left of the screen or to the right. I'm going to pick to the left of the screen. And it's, as you can see, this document that I just was working in is now on the left-hand side of my screen. Now I'm going to go over here, and you can see the other document is on the right-hand side. So what I'm going to do is just click on it, and it should open up so that it's bigger and equally shares both screens. Now inside you can see both documents easily. So if I wanted to go back to last week, I might go to, let's see, my first page of annotations from Wednesday. And then over here, I would go to my subtopic 1 for this week's writing. And I'm just going to turn my annotations into sentences. So subtopic 1, you should have already done this last week. I wrote about Neil Armstrong. So my first subtopic name was his introduction in early life. So I'm just going to retype that over here. Now I need to turn my annotations into sentences, complete sentences, to create a paragraph for my final project. So first I'm going to look at what I have from last week. For jobs and achievements, I had written that he was a famous pilot, an engineer, and an astronaut. He commanded Apollo 11, which was a space mission to the moon, and he also was the first person to walk on the moon. So now I need to turn these into sentences. I'm going to use my bullet point, job and achievements, to help me craft my topic sentence or my sentence introducing this idea. So I might say, Neil Armstrong had many important jobs and achieved a lot. So I just took this basic idea, jobs and achievements, and I turned it into a sentence in my final presentation. Make sure everything is spelled right. Okay, now let me turn my annotations into sentences. So famous pilot, engineer, and astronaut. That is not a complete sentence, so I need to turn it into one. So I might say, he was a famous astronaut, an engineer, and pilot. My comma after engineer because I have a series subject there. Okay, my next annotation was that he commanded Apollo 11. So that's probably what he was most well known for, was his mission to the moon, where he was the first man to walk on the moon. The name of that mission was Apollo 11. So I'm going to make this sentence a little bit more interesting. I'm going to say, he is probably the most well known for commanding the space mission Apollo 11. Got some mistakes here. Okay. This mission was the first to make it to the moon. And then I might say Neil Armstrong was the first person to walk on the moon. All right, so now I've turned all my annotations into sentences. Now I'm going to go to my next bullet point, which was about his birth and his family. So again, I'm going to use this bullet point to help me write my topic sentence to introduce these ideas. So I might say that Neil Armstrong grew up in Ohio and was born on August 5th, 1940. So Neil Armstrong was born and grew up in Ohio with his parents, sister, and brother. So now I'm looking at this. Neil Armstrong was born and grew up in Ohio with his parents, sister, and brother. I think I'm going to make a little change, which we can always change things as we're working. So Neil Armstrong was born. I'm going to add the date of his birth in there because I think that's a good place to put it. So he was born on August 5th, 1940 in Ohio. And then I'm going to change this to where he grew up with his parents, sister, and brother. All right, so now I have all my information here. All right, my next bullet point was his interests. So when he was young, what were his interests? So I had written that he went on his first airplane ride when he was 6. He took his first flying lesson when he was 14. He was interested in planes and outer space. He would often look through telescopes, and he ended up going to college to Purdue University for aeronautical engineering to study the engineering behind how people build rocket ships and make it to space, outer space. So again, my topic sentence for this annotation might be, Neil Armstrong had many interests in outer space and planes at a young age. So that kind of summarizes all that information nicely for me. These, it's hard to spell correctly when the font is so small. Okay, so he had a lot of interest at a young age. Now I can turn these annotations into sentences by being specific about what his interests were. So, for example, his first airplane ride was so he took his first airplane ride at age 6 and began flying lessons at age 14. Okay. He was interested in how planes worked and outer space. He would often look through telescopes to study outer space. Okay. Now my last one was that he ended up going to college for aeronautical engineering. So I might say these interests are what inspired him to go to Purdue University to study aeronautical engineering. You can kind of see how his interests, they inspired him to go to college and study this specific area, which then led to his future of working for NASA and becoming an astronaut, etc. All right, so you can see that the first thing that I did today was I opened up my writing annotations from last week and then my writing packet for this week. Then I went through the steps to split the screen to make it a little bit easier to go back and forth between my work from last week so I could turn it into sentences for my final project for this week. So again, if your annotations from last week, if you didn't get a chance to complete them all, you can still work on that this week and go to that Pebble Go website to find more information. Also, if you're typing your annotations and turning them into sentences and you realize like, oh, you know what, I wish I had more information. Like I'm wondering, what does aeronautical engineering mean exactly? You can always stop and go back and research further about your person to add more details into your final project for this week. Okay, so remember, we want to have lots of facts and information that matches up with each subtopic to make our writing really informative for the reader. So your job this week is to complete your paragraph for each subtopic that you annotated last week. So mine from last week were his early life, NASA, moon landing, and later in life. So after I'm done with typing my paragraph for subtopic 1, which was introduction in early life, tomorrow I would go to subtopic 2. In my final presentation, I would type in the name of it, which is NASA, and then I would start using my annotations from last week about NASA to turn them into a paragraph. So you're going to keep doing that until you are done with all of your subtopics. You have paragraphs for all 4. And remember, at any point you can stop and you can research further and change things. The big thing is that you're using the information and the work that you did last week to help you with this week's writing, which is just turning that information into a paragraph with complete sentences and punctuation, capitalization, and all those important things. When you're done typing all of your paragraphs, you can go back and add pictures to your presentation to make it more interesting. And that's it. That's your job for this week. I can't wait to see all of your great work.